Conversations with Phil. Business advice without the BS. Just straight talk and frank conversations to help you grow your business by teaching you to get more leads, earn more referrals, and close more business. Each episode, Phil has a conversation with a business leader to offer you insights from their business and translate it into actionable tips for your business.
So today I have a very unique guest. Normally I talk to people that I've met in person, hung out with and stuff. And Mitch Slater is one of those guys that I've always wanted to do that with, but we're friends on Facebook, we're connected on LinkedIn, we text, we're connected on Twitter, and yet I've never met the guy. It's really interesting to me. And yet I would say we're friends and we get along great and we have a ton to share. And he's a financial advisor that even though I've never met in person, I can't say recommend, but I can say I strongly encourage you to check out Mitch on social because he's not just some advisor that's out there puking boring stuff. He's really interesting. He's got a passion for music, a passion for Springsteen, a passion for New Jersey, and he gets social media. So Mitch, welcome to the show, buddy.
My pleasure, Phil. It is amazing that we've actually never met, broke bread, gone to Bruce, whatever it is. It's interesting. And that's really one of the most wonderful things about social media over the last 10 years are the relationships that I've developed, like this. And it's been very cool, especially through Springsteen and a number of other things when I actually do get to meet wonderful people like you and actually hang out in person. I think it's great. I think people just are missing out on this incredible experience. Life is so short, and the opportunity to have all of these people around the world, and they're not, maybe some aren't really friends or fans and all that other stuff, but at least in my Springsteen life, which is, passion, not obsession, which is my big thing there. there are those that say the fact that I've been to 260 shows, Mitch, it's an obsession. I say it's a passion. We could debate that. But the reality is, I love chatting with Elin in Sweden, or I love chatting with, Susan in Norway, and I've actually become really good friends with the main prosecutor of Barcelona through Bruce. When my son was there on doing his junior year abroad when he was at Penn State, I had a guy there that I knew that actually looked out for him. We visited there. We hung out. He hangs out here when we see the Bruce shows together. And he's become a real friend. And these things just wouldn't happen without all of this. And it's a wonderful thing. And I think everyone in any aspect of business, my business especially, where it's still a little taboo and weird and strange, and there's only maybe, I would say that I was part of 1% of early adopters. That number's maybe up to 5 to 10%. But there's such a wide open arena, and the Brittany Castros of the world that get it, and that's somebody to check out because she's just like one of the coolest people I've ever met. Are doing it right and having fun, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So we're not going to mention the name of your company, which I think is right. That's quite okay. I was in that industry too, and I know I for a long time I was vice president at Regional Financial Services Company, and nobody knew who I was on social. And it's interesting because the organization wants to block that, and yet if they plugged into that and powered up the source and said, Mitch, if you would just be our brand ambassador, how much stronger that would make that organization, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's the four-letter word that has kind of been that's dogged this industry for years, and that's fear. And it's fear of the unknown. And in all fairness to my firm and the major firms that are out there, the regulators haven't made it any easier because they still don't get it. So their rules and regs are very confusing, which makes, I actually feel for people in upper management. I understand their frustration. But the reality is that this is no different form of communication than being on the phone, than making a phone call, than sending an email. I've been in this business since October 19th, 1987. Which literally was literally my first day as a financial advisor with a firm I'll mention called Merrill Lynch. And obviously, for those that aren't aware of that date in history, that was the stock market crash. Other than 1929, the worst day in the history of the market. And that was my first day with a license, sitting at a desk with a legal pad in Newark, New Jersey, watching everyone in the office basically fall over and collapse, including my dad, who I wound up working with for a number of years. But it was a different world back then, because you had a Quotron, you had this machine on your desk, you pressed maybe I, B, M, go out for a cup of coffee, have lunch, meet with a client, come back, and then in little green letters you'd see the symbol, and then you'd know where it's trading. So we've come a long way, the industry has, and I learned early on from some very smart people, including my dad and other mentors that I had in business, my brother one, is that you have to be a chameleon. And you have to be willing to adapt, but you also have to be willing to change. And those who accept change win. All right? And I, throughout my career, when I'm allowed, have accepted change. And that's always been a successful strategy. And the folks that are doing that today are the folks like my good friend and yours, Gary Vaynerchuk, are winning because they saw that coming. And you got to listen to those people. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Look for those harbingers of change and be willing to go with them instead of try to swim upstream and be like a salmon, because that frankly doesn't work.
No, not at all. And everyone's changing. It's not just you're changing in your industry. Everyone's changing in their industry. And the fact that my 89-year-old mom is an expert in Facebook, she uses Uber, she texts. I haven't gotten her into Twitter, but she's on Instagram. My niece, who's a star in her own right, won the Rachel Ray cookbook competition, and just had her book published and is a frequent guest on Rachel Ray. She's trying to get her to learn Snapchat. So, there are all of these things that generation is doing, yet they're still fighting it in certain ways on the business side, not on the personal side, but on the business side. My daughter will tell me, Dad, stay away from Snapchat. You're already doing enough Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn is your business thing. I get it. But can Snapchat just be mine? And then I'm hanging out with Gary Vaynerchuk when I brought him out to be interviewed by my old boss, Larry King. And the first thing Gary says to me, listen, I want you to chat, do some chat stuff during the interview. And fortunately, I did get a little lesson before. I had a feeling that would happen because Gary's such a Snapchat fan. And I knew what to do, thank God. But it just showed me, and now Instagram is basically cloning the Snapchat stories. And can you imagine how wonderful it would be in my industry, your former industry, to be able, because to really let people know who you are, because ultimately I know the people that I choose to work with in life, whether it's, lawyer, accountant, dentist, the guy upstairs fixing my bathroom right now, these are people I have to trust. So how better to learn about trust and learn about what these people are doing necessarily in their spare time. And, I don't necessarily care about what your political views are. Sometimes I do, but I think I care a little bit more about how you lead your life and how important your family is and these kinds of things, and to be able to learn about that and to have my clients, for example, they know who I am. I'm an open book. And they will make that decision whether they feel comfortable or not. And I think that's the future. I think the future is now. It's happening right now. And it is working beautifully in certain places.
Yeah, totally. So well said, Mitch. So well said, right? The know, like, and trust speeds up so much more because of social media. Because frankly, while we might not care that you had rigatoni for dinner, it is nice to know that you had a meal with your family, with Gary V, with Larry King, whatever you did, right? Or that Springsteen fan. And that helps me then say, that's like me. Or maybe that's not, but I love that passion. And that's something then that I can plug into, because if he's that passionate about his hobbies, my goodness, how passionate is this guy going to be about making sure that my money is managed well, that people don't screw with my stuff? You know, if something does happen, if a mistake happens, which they will, we're all human, right? You can recover from that and be transparent and say, you know what? Hey, Mitch, I'm sorry, man, I screwed up. We're going to make this better.
I think it just comes down to having people like you as who you are as a human being. You know, we hear the robo-advisor, the robot word. I hate that expression. But, you know, the reality is people want to know you and understand who you are. But the one caveat, and, you know, I obviously quote Gary a lot. He's a good friend and you know, wonderful relationship. But my favorite quote all time, and as a baby boomer, we, you know, those of us can relate to this, is in a world of Jetsons, you still have to go Flintstone. And it's so simple. It's such a simple concept. Anyone who thinks of the Jetsons, they remember, you know, George and Judy Jetson flying around, and this is the future that we were going to see with our, you know, with our robot, and that, you know, that's the technology that you and I are using right now, which is just freaking incredible. But at the end of the day, the only way that someone's going to trust me or like me or work with me is for me to pick up the phone, me to go sit down with them, break bread, sit at their kitchen table, and let them know who I am really as a human being. And that's the biggest mistake people made in the Madoff generation. And Madoff, in my view, you know, killed our industry for a good decade. And when I think about the people, very smart people that wound up losing, you know, most of their net worth, and the tragedy of Madoff and the Elie Wiesel story, and I was a big New York Met fan, the amount of money that the Met owners lost, I think, oh my God, these are the smartest people. Yet when you look, you know, you look under the covers, you realize most of them never met with him. They were just told he was great. They just wanted to believe this magical return was going to happen every year. I mean, come on. Anybody that's been in this industry or the medical industry, because I think in many ways it's very similar, because, you know, people will tell you, you know, my daughter had a situation recently with some migraines. We went to 3 different doctors till we were able to get it under control. We heard 3 different stories, okay? Everyone that is human. They do their best, all right? But you have to go, and you actually need to spend time with people and be comfortable and hopefully find a solution to whether it's your financial problem, whether it's your medical problem, you know, whatever it is in life. You know, you have to search out and seek these people. But, you know, you got to be a Flintstone. You got to go back to the Stone Age, and you really have to spend some time. And I love that. I love people. I mean, you know, I think I generally love people. I do often tweet that I do prefer dogs to people, and I do feel that way at times. That's probably why I have 3 dogs who are behaving extremely well right now. They're somewhere in my house, and I don't know why, but they're behaving. But, you know, in general, I do love people. You know, I'm a little concerned about part of America right now, without getting too political, because I'm hearing things that just are so disturbing. But I think deep down, people are good.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, that's the whole reason that I got involved in social, is because it would allow me to connect across the miles, because my network when I lived in Milwaukee was a great network, but it was in Milwaukee. And I knew that I wanted to grow it bigger. I wanted to, you know, I'd never been in New Jersey before. I'd never been to New York City. I'd never seen much of Florida. So now, you know, I've been in New York City lots of times. I've visited, you know, your company in Newark many times.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I live in Tampa, and it's all
Right.
because social media made that possible, and kind of brought the covers open of possibility. And then
Right.
this stuff, you know, this really is an enrichment. This is not a
Right.
replacement, right? This is an enrichment of a relationship.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. And I think that's the message. You know, the old Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. Well, in many ways it is, and I think that's what we see today. And you know, I listen. I get plenty of flack from, you know, friends here and there. Oh my God, Mitch, you know, and I got block me if you want. You know, I mean, I've made it very clear. Listen, I'm a guy that grew up that wanted to be an actor. I'm somebody that, has this creative passion that, worked in radio and television for 7 years before getting in the financial services industry. But throughout most of my career, have been able to manage to balance a number of creative things over the years. But for me, Facebook, in many ways, is my own personal news network. And if people don't like it, they have an option. Just like I have the option to flip, and change the channels. They have the option to block me. They have the option to whatever. What bothers me is when people, really say, they don't really tell me why I post too much, or you may disagree. That's fine. But I try to make it entertaining because at the end of the day, I think that's what matters more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, being interesting, right? That's what people want to see. And also, I would say one thing, and that you didn't say, but I think that's important, is that you're respectful. You're not attacking any human being. You're not going, Phil, you suck, and I hate you. You're really trying your best to be as respectful as you can, even though you state your opinions. And I think that's an important reminder as well, because you have your opinions, and that's cool. Whether or not whoever agrees with them, I think, or doesn't agree, it's perfectly fine. We all have our opinion.
And you have to be careful, though. Realistically, I probably have gone too far at times on Facebook. But Facebook is not for business. Facebook is my personal use. Twitter is my personal use. LinkedIn, I've never commented on anything political. I never will. I never comment on any investments specifically. I comment more about really positive things that people are doing. Or sharing positive messages that I hear from people like yourself. That to me is useful, and it bothers me when I see those conversations more and more on LinkedIn, and I worry about that with the Microsoft purchase. Actually, where that's going to go, because that's not the purpose of it.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Right, be professional there. Do share some of your personality, but focus on the positive. Try to get that positive message out more, and don't. Nobody wants just to be puked on of negative stuff or about stuff that's all right. All crappy. So I'm with you there, man. So So Mitch, this Springsteen passion project of yours.
Yeah.
How did this get started? I mean, where did this all come from? Because 260 concerts, dude, that's more concerts than I've seen of everyone in the world combined. So where did this come from?
So it really started in my youth, as a teenager, at first, unfortunately growing up in New Jersey, kind of impossible to not know at 15, 16 years old about this, this guy who was at the time probably, 10 years old or 14 years, about 10 years old or 11 years old, or putting out this interesting music and kind of like this music talked to me. I mean, he would, write some of these songs. Especially Born to Run in Darkness era. It just meant a lot to me. And then it all happened, and that was seeing my first live concert, and that changed everything. In August of 1978, and I'm embarrassed that that's when I started. I should have started in November of 76 on my 16th birthday at the Palladium in New York City when he opened up with Rendezvous. It still bothers me that I said to my parents, what did we do on my 16th birthday? We went out for Chinese food. Chinese food? I could have been at the Palladium seeing Bruce. Whatever. I'll eventually get over it. But you know what? I went with a good friend who's one of my closest friends, and he and I have probably seen 80% of these shows together, and we both had that experience in the third song of Spirit in the Night, and Bruce out in the audience. This is before pits and everything. So we were just on the floor in seats, but you're standing, and he comes out in the crowd, and I just never seen anything like it. I mean, I'd seen, I was into Jethro Tull, and I was Kansas and the Eagles and Steve Miller and all these other artists. But my God, when I finally saw these concerts, I was just the passion. And, I've said this many times, but this is just so true. Recently I was flying back from a show in California, and I ran into my rabbi. who's a great guy who actually boxes. He's one of the coolest guys I know. And he said to me, he says, what is it, Mitch? What is it about Bruce? And I said, Rabbi, I said, I love your sermons. You do a great job. But as much as I'm Jewish, I'm proud of it. I'm, very culturally proud of my heritage. I don't get that feeling ever in Temple that I get at a Bruce concert. All right. It's spirituality. It's enthusiasm. It's blood, sweat, and tears. It's the pain and suffering when he talks about his relationship with his dad, to the freedom of getting in that car, and on graduation night and making something of himself, to the pain again he had, when he moved out to LA in the 80s and 90s, to the joy that has come back into his life, and that's why he's touring so much. Those are just real moments for me, and other than the joy I get from my family, and there is nothing like the joy that I get from my son Harrison, my daughter Georgia, my wife Leslie, my incredible 89-year-old mother, my wonderful siblings Diane and Jeff, and my nieces and nephews, and of course my dogs. That aside, there's nothing like being at a Bruce Springsteen concert, and that's not not everyone feels that way. There are those that feel that way about the Grateful Dead, even without Jerry. There are those that feel that way about the Rolling Stones. There are those that feel that way about, I guess, for some ridiculous reason, Justin Bieber. But whatever it is, and I might not like the music, but it's passion. And at the end of the day, Phil, life is about enthusiasm. And the greatest trainer I ever met was a guy named Al. He wrote on a chalkboard just the letters IASM, and he walked out of the room, and he said, "The key to the business is up there. I'll be back in 10 minutes." And we're like, no one had a clue. And then he filled in, and he says, those 4 letters are the last 4 letters of the word enthusiasm. And IASM means I am sold myself. And if you're not sold yourself, whether it's on, your job, whether it's on what investments you may be recommending in that particular job, or drug, if you're a doctor, or widget, or hickory cheeseburger at the Apple Pan in LA, whatever it is, if it's something that you don't believe in and that you're passionate about, why bother? Because, this whole, life is a highway. I mean, it really is. And eventually, we're all going to be Thelma and Louise, and we're going off that cliff. And until we get there, I'm trying to do the best I can. It's not easy. It's not easy. That road is paved with so many speed bumps, and I've been through them, and I'm going through some now, and considering what I want to do when I grow up. But really, it's finding something you're passionate about. And at the end of the day, Springsteen music, but mostly Springsteen live. I feel so fortunate that at 66 years old, this man is in the shape of his life. And although we've lost Clarence, we've lost Danny, the band feels so strong and is having so much fun. And the conversations that I've had with Steve Van Zandt and Roy and Jake and others in the band, Max and Gary, these guys are having so much fun, and it shows. And that, it's not simple. Phil, that's what this all comes down to. That's kind of what connected me to you, and that's why I've enjoyed the work you do. This is a guy having fun, giving a great message. And I love that. And that's what I love about Gary. And that's what I love about guys like Ted Rubin and, people that are just really having fun in delivering their message, what it is. Because what's the point? I mean, really, listening to Michael Phelps last night after winning his 22nd Golden, and he talked about the dark, how he went through this dark period when he was arrested, and he went to some rehab, and he, didn't want to live. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And here you would think this is a guy that's got to be the happiest man on the face of the earth. You know, yesterday is, 3-4 years since we lost Robin Williams. Should have been the happiest man on the face of this earth. This isn't easy. And somehow you've got to dig down and be passionate and find something to going to quote Bruce again, but to give you that reason to believe. And I think that ultimately at the end of the day, you have to find something.
Wow. That's awesome. I am sold myself. Is your passion, your enthusiasm. Remind me who said that, Mitch. I was just so listening to you, I missed his name.
So his name is Al Martella. I think he retired recently from Merrill Lynch, but Merrill Lynch had a wonderful training program in the 80s and 90s, and Al and a woman named Sherry Lucas ran a fantastic program, which I was so fortunate for the next 10 years to be part of myself. I was a trainer. I participated, 2 or 3 times a month in Princeton at Merrill Lynch's corporate headquarters at the time. But, that meant so much to me. And that's been my mantra in training other people in anything. And quite frankly, it's been my mantra as a parent. And I have a wonderful friend named Neil Godfrey. Neil, who's sometimes known as the goddess of money. Neil wrote all these wonderful books in the 80s and 90s. They were all bestsellers about a penny saved, money doesn't grow on trees, teaching children how to be financially literate, or tell parents how to raise financially literate children. And that became a strong passion of mine. And that's something that I've done throughout my practice. I've, created content. I helped have New Jersey be one of the states that mandates financial literacy taught in every high school class. That was one of the better things that Governor Corzine got through before he had his own trouble. But I learned so much from Neil, and Neil had a system in training your kids having to do with charity and giving money to charity, having like a 3-jar system and Neil is still out there doing it today. She's absolutely incredible. Those that have tried to copy her don't know what they're doing. But I try to teach that to my kids. I guess at the end of the day, if you'll ask my kids, well, what'd you learn from your dad? They would talk about music. They would hopefully talk about being sold themselves and not being afraid to speak up for themselves. And it's not easy. Every kid's got a different personality, and my son and daughter are very different, but both incredibly loving, caring individuals, and I know are going to be successful in whatever they continue to do in life. And trust me, they got that from me. But I mean, they got the being sold themselves in the music. But the question my wife gets asked more often than not is, Mitch has been at all these Bruce shows, and her answer is, well, somebody had to raise the kids, because she doesn't share in that passion. She has plenty of others that we share in, but it's kind of good that she doesn't, because somebody did have to raise the kids, and I was busy seeing Bruce. But to be honest with you, I never missed anything growing up. I coached every sport. I was on the Board of Education in my town for the last 6 years, very involved in our school system. I try not to let the Bruce passion get in the way. But now that they're out of the house and there's 8 shows coming up in the next 3 weeks, I will be 3 at MetLife, 2 in Philly, 1 in D.C., 1 in Virginia Beach, and then meet my friend from L.A. At Gillette in Boston for the finale, because why not?
Absolutely, right. If it's your passion, you might as well do it. And one of the things that's your passion is, as we talked briefly about, is music. So you're sitting at your piano there.
Yeah, I happen to be.
Yeah. Why don't you pick us a little bit there and give us a little tune here that we can get into and share that music passion. He's got a harmonica sitting at his piano. He's got some tunes. So what you got for us today, Mitch?
Well, it's always tough to choose one song, but I'm going to play one that means a lot to me. may not sound anything like the way Bruce plays it, but it brings me great joy every now and then when I get to play around and play Thunder Road. So here's a little bit of Thunder Road. Hopefully,
you're doing
just
fine.
move this a little bit because I don't want to disconnect. Okay. Screen door slams, Mary's dress waves. Like a vision, she dances across the porch as the radio plays. Roy Orbison singing for the lonely. Hey, that's me, and I want you only. Don't turn me home again, I just can't face myself alone again. Don't you run back inside, darling, you know just what I'm here for. So you're scared and you're thinking that maybe we ain't that young anymore. Show a little faith, there's magic in the night. You ain't a beauty, but hey, you're alright. Oh, and that's alright with me. You can hide beneath your covers and study your pain. Make crosses from your lovers, throw roses in the rain. Waste your summer praying in vain for a savior to rise from these streets. Well, I know hero that's understood all the redemption I can offer girls beneath this dirty hood, with a chance to make it good somehow. Hey, what else can we do now? That's just a little bit of Thunder Road, a song that just kind of means so much to me. And over the years, fortunately, it's something Bruce plays, and I don't know, the lyrics just get me every time.
That's awesome, man. Well, that's a great outro. Yeah, love that. It sounds, I mean, I could have listened to that all day, Mitch. So that's really, really nice. It's fun. It's passionate. You know, it's a reminder for me anyway to, to really find what that passion is and to focus on that and spend a little time. I'm so grateful for you, my friend. Thank you for sharing some of your day with me.
Oh, my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure. And maybe I'll take you out with just a little bit of racing in the street, because it's kind of the opposite end of that. Because I think everybody's got to figure it out for themselves, you know. Yeah. Life isn't so easy. I got a 69 Chevy with a 396 fuelie heads and a hearse on the floor. She's waiting tonight down at the parking lot outside the 7-Eleven store. Me and my partner Sonny built her straight out of scratch, and we rides with me from town to town. We only run for the money, got no strings attached. We set them up and then we shut them down. Tonight, the strip's just right. I want to blow 'em off in my first heat. Summer's almost gone, but the time is right. For racing in the street. it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
My friend, I am so grateful for you, Mitch. It is fun. It is interesting. You are the man, the myth, the legend that I expected you would be, my friend. So thank you for investing some of your day with me.